being a African American, there's not a lot of people that look like me in the influencer marketing space. So for me, when I was trying to get into the social media space, when I was learning about influencer marketing, I didn't really have anyone to look up to that I felt that I connected with. And when I graduated, I was applying for jobs, had a very hard time getting a job. And so I started this blog because I really loved hip hop music and wrote about the local hip hop scene here in Boston. And that led to a lot of different things, like working with artists, managing them, doing PR.
What do you think is the platform that is the hottest right now for a creator? Let's say short form creator first.
I think Instagram, right? And I say that because with everything around the TikTok ban, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's just a great buzz to talk about. You know, some creators are doubling down on Instagram and YouTube Shorts. And I think Instagram's been around forever.
And what do you think of the latest developments around TikTok when they've announced like they're going to produce a US focused algorithm, I think, to avoid the ban in America? Do you think it's going to affect creators in any way?
I can't imagine a world where TikTok doesn't exist in the US. I think there'll be some type of version of it. As a creator, you just want to be where the attention is. And so TikTok might be your kind of primary platform, but you should also be creating and repurposing content on other platforms so that you're not at the liberty of changes.
What are some of the most notable trends you have observed in the influencer marketing recently?
Yeah, there's a lot. AI, right? Let's just start with AI.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome everyone to season 2 of Impulse, the influencer marketing podcast. I'm your host, Shubham Tiwari, head of content and socials at Phyllo, the universal API for creator data. Joining us today is a giant in the world of creator economy and an influencer marketing expert, Lindsey Gamble, as the current associate director of influencer innovation at Later, which is formerly known as Maverick, an all-in-one influencer marketing platform. With years of experience working with enterprise consumer brands on creator influencer marketing campaigns and a deep understanding of the creator economy, Lindsey helps brands experiment and enter new trends in the creator economy. Today, we are going to talk about all his experience and what he has done. And before we get into our conversation today, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on the conversation that we have with people like Lindsey. Lindsey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that intro. It was perfect, and I'm excited to chat with you and the rest of the community for the next 45 minutes or so.
Well, it was due over long. So we have you on our season 2 now. We were trying to get you on the season 1. So the pleasure is all ours. Let's start on a fun note. Give me your most controversial hot take on influencer marketing.
That's a great one. I don't know if it's a big hot take, but I think brands, marketers sometimes overthink influencer marketing. And with respect to all the hard work that goes into an influencer marketing campaign, trust me, I've been on that end. But what I've kind of realized over the years I've been in the space is that, sometimes when you're in marketing, you really overthink a lot of different things. I think one of the biggest aspects is some brands overthink the actual creators they're partnering with, right? Some brands will think that the creator they want to partner with has to be an exact copy of their persona, but that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of different ways you can get in front of audiences. And, for example, I hike, I travel, I spend a lot of time in the outdoors, and I'm not necessarily someone that you would look at and say, hey, this person's a hiker, but I've worked with, brands like LL Bean that are really focused on hiking, and maybe I don't look like their typical persona consumer, but I have an audience based on what I create content around and actually being someone that's really passionate about the outdoors. And so I think the hot take is sometimes just overthinking about influencer marketing, even though it's very challenging.
Yeah, that sounds very counterintuitive if you say it like that. But
Thank you.
life is like that. So that's a hot take from Lindsey. Let's start, with you, Lindsey, your journey. How did you get into marketing? Then, because you originally started your own blog, you're a creator yourself. Your YouTube channel is there for how many years now? Because you started it in your college days.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
Tell
actually.
us about this. Yeah.
Yes, I graduated with a communications degree and wanted to get into social media. Graduated back in 2010, had a hard time getting into social media. And I had taken this class that was around new media. And, new media back then was totally different than what it is today. New media is basically like blogs and Facebook. And we had to come up with a blog. And I came up with this blog called Hard in the Paint. And it originally was supposed to be a blog that was focused on sports and music. And when I graduated, I was applying for jobs, had a very hard time getting a job, because I didn't have any true social media experience, based on internships or, just any prior work in the social media landscape. And so I started this blog because I really love hip hop music and wrote about the local hip hop scene here in Boston. Um, got it WordPressed up, started going on Twitter, eventually started interviewing artists, being on camera and building up a small YouTube channel. And that led to a lot of different things like working with artists, managing them, doing PR, actually being a creator influencer. My first brand deal was actually with Skype covering the Drake concert, which was awesome. Started throwing concerts, but basically seeing social media as a way to really build an audience and get your craft out there and your word. And it's really focused around content. And so I did that for 6-7 years while I worked in cancer research at a hospital. And then finally was able to take that experience and, make my pitch to a smaller influencer marketing agency outside of Boston. Worked there for 6 months, got laid off. And then, eventually got a role at Later/Maverick and have been here for 5.5 years, actually longer now. So that's kind of my journey.
So it's like you just followed your passion. We can say that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you talk about me being a creator too, right? I think
Yep.
I like to mention that a lot because that's I'm a creator at heart. I grew up drawing, painting, and that was one of my dreams. A lot of wanted to be in NFL, but I'm always someone that's really, creative and interested in different aspects. While I don't draw or have that YouTube channel live, I write my newsletter, I create content, I do photography, share on LinkedIn. So really a creator and a marketer at heart.
You're a jack of all trades. But let's come to the later part of your life. As the associate director of influencer innovation at Later, what does your role entail on a day-to-day basis? What do you do exactly?
So it's really focused on innovation. That's the core of it. And, innovation can be everything, right? I think sometimes you hear innovation, it's like you have to have these big, bold ideas. Yes, that's one aspect. But the way I look at it, and it's a role that was designed for me a few years ago. After running campaigns and doing a lot of execution, I was able to move into this role that's more focused on the experimentation. So it's looking at the creator economy, figuring out, what are the new platforms and formats that a marketer can partner with a creator on. So those type of, that's one aspect. There's also, different strategies and tactics, work with creators as consultants, work with creators for consumer research, bringing creators deeper into your business, and then just other aspects too. And so, because I function as a creator too, I'm able to kind of be a practitioner of that. And so we think about some of the things that are popping up in influencer marketing, like a LinkedIn, right? I started creating content on LinkedIn years ago. And so that's the kind of a hot platform for that. And so that's something that's, would be considered innovation, right? Helping our brands work B2B creators on LinkedIn. And then, providing support to accounts. So helping out with proposals, selling a new business. And I would say like kind of being an internal and external thought leader. I love the creator economy. I love influencer marketing. So, outside of my 9 to 5, I'm creating content and speaking on podcasts, conferences, but also kind of being that person that is keeping a pulse on everything creator economy. So I can talk to our customers, talk to my colleagues, and really share what I'm learning and how I'm thinking about that. And ideally help us drive a lot more value for our customers.
Right. Lindsey, I'm happy that you mentioned the word hot platform, like which platform is gaining the most traction at this point. What do you think is the platform that is the hottest right now for a creator? Let's say short form creator first.
Yeah. I think Instagram, right? And I say that because, with everything around the TikTok ban, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's just a great buzz to talk about. Some creators are doubling down on Instagram and YouTube Shorts. But I think Instagram's been, around forever. And, there's a lot of frustration about, being on Instagram, even though they're pushing Reels, it's still very hard to, build an audience. I mean, personally, I've been stuck at the same follower count pretty much for years, right? And a lot of creators are like that unless you put out a Reel and go viral. And so I think it's hard because it's kind of like the core platform that everyone's on, whether they're a creator or everyday user or a brand. And so, creators talk about having limited reach, but I think some of the things, one of the biggest things they forget about is that Instagram today versus 5 years ago, there's way more people out there creating content. Pretty much everyone on Instagram is creating content. So you have, this pie that used to have a bigger piece of it because there was less demand and more supply. But now that has pretty much been equal. And so if you're a creator today, it's really hard to break through the noise. Even if you're putting out
Right.
good content, just a massive amount of people producing content on Instagram.
Right, right. And what do you think of the latest developments around TikTok when they have announced like they are going to produce a US focused algorithm? I think to avoid the ban in America.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to affect creators in any way, or like how does it change or impact the influencer marketing ecosystem?
Yeah. I mean, again, I can't imagine a world where TikTok doesn't exist in the US. I
Yeah,
think there'll be some type of version of it. I think there's too much money, and I think it's too rooted in culture, especially in the US. Um, Obviously, if it were to go away, it would be a huge impact. If you think about the pandemic, TikTok really took off
yeah,
because people that, didn't consider themselves creators just, turned on their phone, did a little selfie video and started sharing their passions. And there's so many stories of people going from, not a nobody, but a nobody on social media to becoming, kind of overnight celebrities and, building up followings of $1 million. I mean, building up these big followings of millions of followers and being able to turn that into, dollars and sometimes into millions. And the thing that I think about too is that, the platforms are going to always change. Remember when MySpace was the big thing, Facebook was the big thing, platforms come and go. And I think about it as like, as a creator, you just want to be where the attention is. And so TikTok might be your kind of primary platform, but you should also be creating and repurposing content on other platforms so that you're not at the liberty of changes. Because all platforms are going to change the algorithm. They're going to have new regulations. There's going to be more, regulatory guidance around it. And as a creator, you want to make sure that if a platform were to come and go, you're prepared for that. It's like renting an apartment, right? There's some luxury and some benefits to that, but at any point that landlord could sell that unit
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're out versus you own it. And I think that's the same type of thing that you need to think about, like, yeah, benefits, but also, protect yourself.
Right. So nothing to worry about at this point.
Mhm.
There are always ways around these things.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I think I would recommend, and I think a lot of creators are doing this today, is like diversifying, right? Like I talked about, Instagram doesn't have the greatest reach, but repurpose those pieces of content on Instagram, YouTube Shorts, even LinkedIn, Snapchat. There's all these platforms. It's never been an easier time today to repurpose your content, whether short form video or even the text space. And then also too, I think newsletters and blogs are really important too. Maybe not blogs because AI is going to impact SEO and everything, but I think a newsletter is really important. And you're seeing some of the newsletter platforms go after TikTok creators as a way to, hey, keep producing content on your social channels, but bring some of that community, that audience to your newsletter so that you have more ownership and a direct audience to the people that are following your content. So if you need to, pivot to a new platform, you can send out an email, direct them to a link as opposed to trying to bring them from TikTok to Instagram directly, where it's still a challenge.
right. Now coming back to you, Lindsay, you've been listed as one of the Business Insider's Creator Economy Rising Stars in
Right.
2023.
Yep.
So, what type of lessons are you trying to get across with your work? Because you're a pioneer, you have been in this ecosystem for a very, very long time. People are
Right.
looking up to you, creators are looking up to you. So, what are you trying to get across?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, big shout out to Business Insider. Like, I've been on a couple of their lists and I really appreciate that. For me, I think the first thing is, being a African American, there's not a lot of people that look like me in the influence marketing space. In my career, there's been probably, try to put maybe less than a dozen people that I've gotten to work with that, look like me or even clients. And so for me, when I was trying to get into the social media space, when I was kind of learning about influencer marketing, I didn't really have anyone to look up to that I felt that I connected with. And, when I joined later Maverick, I thought it was a great opportunity and I had a lot of goals I wanted to kind of go after, and things have kind of worked out better than I imagined. And with my work is just inspiring people, especially people that look like me, that, you can take it to how far you want, and being able to do that in a way that's unique, right? I'm myself when I do my work, when I work with customers, when I work with creators. I'm myself, and I think that's unique, and I want more people to feel like they can be themselves, even when they're in environments where they might be the only one. So that's kind of the first aspect. And the other aspect is just, when I think about influencer marketing, like, there's no limitations. I don't think there's nothing, or creators can be part of a business in a lot of different ways. And that's what I'm most excited about when I think about influencer marketing. And that's why I spend time outside of my workday, learning about influencer marketing, thinking about it, following the trends, is that there's so many different things you can do. And there's a playbook, but the playbook is continuing to be written. And so just trying to inspire people to think outside the box and really take influencer marketing to whatever level they want to. That could be new platforms, that could be new types of creators, that could be, untraditional ways of working with creators, or working with brands on both ends.
So far, the message from Lindsay is clear. Don't overthink it, diversify, and keep it cool, keep it real.
Yeah.
So that's what I think the overall philosophy you have towards
No.
influencer marketing. My next question is, when working with the creator within the creator economy, what are the most important things to remember? Let's say top three.
Yeah. The first one's humans. Humans are involved. And I think sometimes you can forget that because when you run an influencer marketing campaign, especially at scale, when you work for a platform or, a SaaS company, a lot of that interaction's happening through email. And sometimes you kind of forget there's actual person on the other end. And I think, whether it's creators thinking that brands are not paying them what they deserve, or brands thinking that creators are difficult to work with, it's all humans. We're all trying to accomplish something. And so I think if you can think about whatever person you're working with, or groups of people, that they're a human, they're just trying to do what they're trying to do, and have that communication, be able to work with them in a way that's efficient. That's the number one. I also would say that it's not just about Mr. Beast. And we talk
That's
about
a
the
good
creator
point.
economy. I love what he's doing. I love what some of those bigger creators are doing, but I feel like especially people that are writing about the industry or work in the industry, they always look at Mr. Beast or the Paul Brothers or
Yeah,
KSI, the only examples of what the creator economy represents. Not everyone's going to be able to generate millions of dollars and have these really big audiences. I think a bigger part of the creator economy is that there's a lot of people that building in these different niches and able to create content around their passion, their interests, and generate a salary that's similar to working a 9 to 5. Maybe they're not the most famous, but like they're really today's entrepreneurs. And I think it's really important. I wish there was more stories about that and more emphasis on that, as opposed to like the big splashy
yeah,
kind of headlines that I think, it's like talking about basketball and always mention LeBron James or Michael Jordan, right? They're kind of the outliers, but there's a whole list of, players that are talented are contributing, a bigger group of people than those one or two individuals that are leading the pack, even though they're very important as well.
yeah. Sometimes we fall into this trap of over analysis. Like
Yeah.
one thumbnail by Mr. Beast will, get so
Yeah.
much attention. People will try to look into it, like they're reading too much into it.
Yeah.
It's
And,
not
and that-
applicable to your context, right?
yeah. And that becomes like the bar. And like,
Yeah.
that's just like, not everyone, that's a lot of people aren't going to be able to reach that. And I think when you kind of talk about those creators so much, other creators that are actually doing great things, they feel like they might be a failure because they're not able to reach,
It's a good point.
that level, which they shouldn't.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what are some of the most notable trends you have observed in the influencer marketing recently? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, there's a lot. I actually every year do a piece around predictions and trends, and some of the ones that come top of mind to me is actually um, AI. Right? Let's just start with
Yeah,
AI. It's kind of what everyone wants to hear about is um, the impact on creators and the impact within the influencer marketing space. We're seeing a lot of benefits of AI for creators, right? From your chat GPTs to some of the new features that YouTube's rolling out, to a lot of these new AI startups where creators are able to leverage these tools to generate new ideas, repurpose content, reach new audiences, different languages. But the other side of it, it's a lot of friction. There's some challenges, right? We in the news, there's things about Chat GPT and OpenAI training on potentially YouTube videos, and so you're finding a lot of these AI platforms might be actually using creative videos, right? And so as a creator,
yeah,
if you're not getting a piece of that deal or some type of revenue, that, that can make you frustrated, right? So there's that aspect. Then we see the social media platforms rolling out new advertising tools where instead of having to partner with creators to generate content assets to use for paid media, some of these advertising tools are getting really, good, where they might be able to just generate the piece of content, or even like what TikTok's testing is those AI avatars where they kind of look like humans, they can do
Yeah.
similar things, and that's all taking money away from creators, even though it's beneficial to marketers. And so the big trend there is just the kind of friction between creators um, in AI from the, there's benefits, but there's also some challenges of it. And then influencer marketing in particular, AI is starting to bring a lot of benefits when it comes to finding the right creators to partner with, right? Platforms have built in AI more where you can, be able to find the right creator outside of just your general filters.
Yep.
I think whether it's ChatGPT or some of these tools that softwares are building into their platform, where you can use AI to actually get insights around your campaign, where you can be able to get those insights much faster, be able to take those insights and results and incorporate that into your campaign. And so it's just speeding things up a lot. The other trend I would talk about is LinkedIn. I mentioned this earlier, but LinkedIn, I don't know if anyone would really predicted LinkedIn becoming a platform for influencer marketing. If you look back, 5 or 6 years ago, the reason why I started creating content on LinkedIn was basically to try to get a job and, kind of build out a niche as
Yeah.
someone,
Right.
show people, hey, I know about social media. And we see a lot more people doing that today. And LinkedIn is actually probably the platform that I check first most days, because there's people putting out content. It's not just about job searching. And what's really unique is that, it became this platform where you're looking to network and find a job, and then people start to create content on it, and more people are leaning into that. And so what happens is when people create content, they build up audiences. Brands want to reach those audiences, and so we're seeing brands, especially in the B2B space, start to partner with creators on LinkedIn. And it's just another platform for creators, whether you're B2B, B2C. Obviously, B2B is the easiest kind of low hanging fruit. But even if you're a B2C creator, you can use Instagram and TikTok to help promote products. And then on LinkedIn, you can partner with brands to, create awareness around like their, initiatives, and talk more about your process in a different way. I think there's some
Right.
challenges too, especially disclosure. I feel like I've seen a lot of LinkedIn content that isn't properly disclosed, which I think that's really at the heart of influencer marketing. If you don't have proper disclosures, then you really don't have influencer marketing. So hopefully we get more of those B2B creators, being upfront with their
Right.
labels, and
Yeah.
also brands too, making sure that creators are playing by the
Yeah.
rules
And
of the content.
also, one of the things with B2B creators on LinkedIn is that they are accused of not keeping it real. You know, creating stories out of anything, and so basically you need to like keep an eye on LinkedIn, as Lindsay has said. And
Yeah.
Lindsay, I have a question here. Like, I'm personally quite interested in growing my brand on LinkedIn, and I think you have close to 20,000 followers, if I'm not wrong.
No,
You
just under maybe 10, under 10,000, 10K.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah,
my,
yeah,
my bad. But
yeah,
10,000 is a big number on LinkedIn.
yeah.
So
I
how do
work
you
hard for
grow?
it.
Yeah. So again, please tell us the formula. How do you grow on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I mean, honest, like when I'm proud of that, whenever I have 10K, because and there's a lot of people that have a lot more bigger audiences, right? It's really, I've been kind of consistent with it for years. I put out content. I don't really lean into any viral hacks or any of the things that the experts out there
Selfies.
do. Yeah, I don't do that, and I think that's fine, right? But to me, it's really about providing value. So every time I post on it, it's really about providing value. A lot of times we'll talk about the creator economy. It might be a new feature, it might be a trend, but every post is geared towards helping someone learn. And sometimes that doesn't, I'll grow with that, but sometimes it's not going to track the big, posts that do millions of views, right? Like I'm not talking about, me walking the dog and saving, someone and how it relates to, the workplace and stuff. I'm really just sharing my thoughts and really trying to attract the right people that I want, that actually care about what I have to say, and not tapping into some of those, viral tactics or growth hacks, which is totally fine. And so in terms of building that personal brand, I think it's really the way I think about it is that if you have thoughts or some type of expertise, and expertise is just a word, right? Everyone's kind of an expert in some area. I feel like if you work in influencer marketing, you run enough campaigns, you work for customers and brands, you have plenty to share. And so you should share that, whether it's through text, whether it's through videos, whatever process or whatever format works best for you. And you need to do it consistently, right? You don't have to always overthink it. But I think when it comes to if you have a process with select influencers, share your process, share an insight. And once you do that over time, people will start to look at you as an expert or this person. You might not always get likes and comments, but like just continue to build at it. And I think, sometimes is people are afraid to do that, right? Especially because LinkedIn is so ingrained in your workplace, right? I've been posting content forever, and it doesn't matter where I'm going to work at. I'm probably going to still post content. I think some companies don't want you to. Some companies only want you to post content around their products and services. Some people are afraid to, what their employer will say. But I think where we are today is that everyone's a content creator, whether you're trying to work with brands or whether you're just trying to set yourself up with an opportunity, right? Especially in this market today, people are getting laid off left and right. If you're only living by your resume, you're probably going to have a tough time getting a job. And so whether you're trying to build a personal brand to start your own thing or work with brands or just kind of put yourself in the right, position, like, build something that goes beyond your resume and beyond, your job description.
Right. Now, Lindsay, coming to your experience of working with consumer brands, could you provide examples of successful influencer marketing campaigns you have worked on with these enterprise custom consumer brands?
I want to pick one that wasn't even about posting content, on the, and, innovation's my focus. So I worked with a beauty brand a few years ago, and they catered to like a mainstream audience, mainstream US audience. Like everyone kind of knows what that is. And they wanted to reach a different audience. They wanted to reach, Black and Latinx Gen Zers. And instead of them, going in their brainstorm room and deciding, what Gen Z, Latinx and Black creators or, audiences wanted to hear from the brand, we actually ran kind of this creator research study. And so it was two components. I worked with them to find creators that fit the persona, Black and Latinx creators that cared about, beauty and skincare, but also we're into, kind of, activism and everything. And we did some focus groups. We didn't tell them what brand it was and basically asked them some questions, what beauty brands they, kind of follow and why, and just basically getting insights directly of like, what attracts them. And so after that, the brand took all that information, came up with some new messaging, some new kind of guidelines on, how they can kind of lean into the insights. And then the second component was a couple of months later, we reached back out to those creators and did one-on-one interviews where we shared the brand and basically kind of create a proof that go-to-market strategy, right? Ask them like,
Right.
hey, here's our new messaging. What do you think about this? What can we tweak? Does this work? And long story short, the brand now uses that messaging and their go-to-market strategy. When they work with creators, that's how they that's like the core part of the brief, the content. And so that to me is really unique, especially when I talked about earlier, like how creators can be part of your business in a lot of different ways. I think sponsored content is great, right? But everyone does that today. It's really thinking about creators who, are experts at creating content, but also consumers and tapping into them in those different ways and being able to use their insights and expertise and thoughts and perspectives into your business. But it's messaging or, getting content that's really authentic. I hate using that word, but content that's people resonate with. And so that's one of my favorite campaigns, especially to go along with like just campaigns that are really promoting diversity, inclusion, and really kind of, doing the right thing.
That's the beautiful thing about creator economy, right? It's so inclusive by design, right?
Yeah.
You just cannot not think of all the people who are out there.
Yeah.
That's a major win. And we are celebrating that win here because we both work in this wonderful world of creator economy.
Yeah.
So that's a playbook right there for others to follow. What Lindsay just told about as an example. Let's come to some fun questions now. Which influencer would you most like to take to lunch? And you can't say Mr. Beast or Paul Brothers or anyone big,
You
that
know
big.
what? I'm not going to pick one particular one. I would say this because there's a lot I could pick. But when I think about, and I feel like that's like the common question, like who's your favorite creator influencer?
Yeah.
I, I what I love creators and influencers from a general standpoint, right? I hike. There's creators that really do outdoor content. Sometimes I'm really into them. I love sports. I love football. There's sports creators that I'm really into. And so for me, when, being a creator too, I love when I go to conferences or have virtual coffee chats with creators and just learn about why they do what they do. What's their story? Why are they passionate about that? It's not so much about, how many followers they have. I care less. I really love the journey and hearing the story because just like I shared mine, it's so interesting to see why people decide to kind of put themselves out there in the internet, especially today where you can put a video out there, especially on TikTok, and if people don't like it, they can really be harsh, right? And that's a
Yeah.
lot. There's a lot of benefits of building up a big audience and having that reach, but there's a lot of challenges, and we see some creators face that today. And so I won't pick one, but I think if I were to take some creators out to lunch, it would be really just learn about the story, what keeps you going, the
Yeah.
challenges
That's
of
fair.
it. Yeah, why do you do that?
Yeah.
And I won't pick one though. At the end, I'll say Kabila, I'll pronounce his name wrong. Kabila Lamine. Kabila Lamine.
Kabi Levo, I love the guy. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
without saying anything, he just
yeah,
creates a wonderful content.
exactly. And so, like, I mean, I would love to talk to him about like why that route and especially just his rise. Right? It was very different than what you're seeing on TikTok with the Addison Rays and the Charlies. Like, he did something totally different in his own way, and it was a household name. So, give you both aspects of that question.
Yeah, that's a wonderful like creator out there to replicate with. He's like I become so happy when I see him with, let's say, Ronaldo, Messi, the biggest
Yeah,
footballers in the world. And this guy is like
yeah.
top the charts.
It's just amazing how you can do, build out a niche or come up with a format that can really take you to places that you probably really never imagined, right?
Yep.
Um, you know, that's not always true, right? And we talked about like just the opportunities that the internet create for people where, you're not just restricted to having a 9 to 5 or having to do an
Yep.
internship or having to work at this agency or having to, work for this studio. You can really pick up your phone, start sharing your passion, stay at it, get creative, get some feedback, and make some money, and probably put yourself in positions that wasn't possible years ago.
Yeah, that's true. That's amazing. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting in the world of influencer marketing?
Yeah, two things come to mind. I've talked about this a little bit. I would say being a practitioner. I think a lot of people create content today, especially working in influencer marketing. I feel like a lot of people double as creators and marketers, like myself. I think that's one of the best ways to learn. I think putting yourself in the shoes of a creator, especially if you're working with them on campaigns, put out content, figure out, how the platforms work, see the ups and downs of posting on Instagram these days, see the challenges of being on TikTok and everything else. And, that's a great way to learn the platforms, but also understand the experience that you probably want to create for creators when you work with them from the brand side. And that's something I've used too when I've worked with brands as a creator. I figure out, what marketers have provided a great experience and try to, kind of do the same thing when I'm on the marketer side and vice versa. The other aspect too is kind of related to that. Things are changing so fast. We talked about trends. We talked about a little bit of everything. This conversation might be outdated 6 months from now because of how fast the creator economy influencer marketing moves. And so I would say, like, if you're able to keep a pulse on the influencer marketing industry, it's really helpful. That's like, staying on top of newsletters that are writing about the creator economy. Subscribe to mine if
Yep.
you want, your platform, social media, websites, follow creators. But by kind of keeping a pulse on what's going on, it'll allow you to kind of predict the future. And so, going back to my role, what I found was helpful was because I was staying up to date on different things. I could see when a LinkedIn was emerging as a platform. And so as influencer market, I could go to a brand and say, hey, like, let's test out LinkedIn, or let's test out podcasts. Let's test out these platforms, YouTube Shorts, because I'm starting to see this traction. And so you get a little ahead of the game, but you also can provide value, especially if you work in an agency or platform, capacity where you're seeing things way before they happen, and you can drive business, drive value, and make your customers and creators happy at the same time.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice for anyone who's looking to start in influencer marketing. Lindsay has given us his philosophy as well: keep it real, or keep it simple, and
Okay.
be human. He has also given a template of a campaign which he worked on. A lot to take from this episode. Lindsay, last two questions. They are more like rituals we make our guests go through. You have to give us a book suggestion or a film suggestion, whatever you're big on, and you have to nominate someone for our show so that we can continue to have wonderful people like you.
Awesome. First one, Gary Vee. I mean, some people love him, some people don't. I just finished listening to his new book is trading attention. What is it? Why am I
Let me
daytime
quickly
trading?
search.
Daytime. It's always a saying. Actually, let me look at it right now.
Day trading attention.
Yes, that's why. I don't know why I'm blanking. I finished it maybe a week or so ago on audio. I read his first book, and thought it was really great, and it kind of made me think more about social media. And this book also is similar to how I think, where it doesn't matter what platform, attention is really what it's about, and it's going to change, and you shouldn't rely so much on one platform or one um, you know
Yep.
service, but you need to just be where attention is today. And I would say that's a great one to listen or to read.
And anyone you want to nominate?
Yeah, there's a couple different people. My good friend Leah Haberman, she's awesome. Um, who else? Who else? Let's go with her. That's one of my favorite people in the space that I think is really great at what she does, and someone that would be great to have on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lindsay, for coming to the show. We loved having you. So much to unpack, so much to learn from you. Uh, Whoever is more interested in influencer marketing who's listening to this episode, please follow Lindsay
Thank you.
on LinkedIn or whatever platform you
What?
are comfortable on. Uh, do let us know what you thought of this episode. You can comment on in the comment section. You can, of course, let me know or Lindsay know about this. And yes, this is a ecosystem which is evolving. It's a passion economy, so we are all looking to expand this. We're all looking to experiment within this ecosystem. So let's give a concerted push to this, and let's celebrate the inclusivity of creator economy and other
Yeah.
things that we'll soon discover. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Impulse, the influencer marketing podcast, is brought to you by Phyllo. Phyllo is the easiest way to get access to authenticated creator data from hundreds of different platforms. To know more about Phyllo, visit getphyllo.com. That's getphylo.com. Also, make sure to search for Influencer Marketing Podcast in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any of your favorite podcast listening platforms. And don't forget to click subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Phyllo, thank you so much for listening.